go again?
Oh, no, not again.
You've seen it before, haven't you?
Dom, how long have we been doing?
Once more unto the bridge, dear friends.
Again and again and again until we're both dead.
Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews with connections in mind. Ghostbusters Afterlife is the much delayed and much anticipated next installment in the Ghostbusters franchise, and this features Paul Rudd, Finn Wolfhard, McKenna Grace amongst others, and this film focuses on the grandchildren of Egon Spengler after the events of the original Ghostbusters. Egon's child has grown up and had kids of her own, and after they are evicted from their home out east, they're forced to move out to a small town in Oklahoma where Egon had been conducting experiments all these years, and surprise, surprise, some ghostly occurrences start happening once the Spengler family arrives here, and it is up to the next generation to take up the torch of the Ghostbusters and stop this ghostly threat. Now, this video review will contain spoilers of Ghostbusters Afterlife. However, I'll be doing my spoiler-free thoughts first before I get into any spoiler content, but just so you know, there will be spoilers later on in this video. But first, let's get into some spoiler-free thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife. Is it any good? Is it worth seeing in the theaters? I would say yes, this is actually a very fun Ghostbusters film. Now, there was some talk going around, and I initially had some concerns going into this film that this film might be the Ghostbusters equivalent of Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, that being after a very divisive previous film, the studio then makes a new film for the fans, and then it just becomes a whole lot of pandering, and the movie itself isn't any good, and they're really more focused on showing you what they think that you wanted out of that previous film. And I'm not gonna lie, there were some moments in this film that, like any sequel, there are of course callbacks and references, and for the most part, the references do hit. However, starting around the halfway point and going on, the references the quality of the references and callbacks gets more and more cringeworthy, in my opinion, and that will be a turnoff for some people. I admit there were definitely some concerns on the story. However, on that point. However, unlike Rise of Skywalker, this film has a couple of differences. One, the previously divisive 26 movie was 5 years removed from the release of this new film, rather than only 2 years removed from the previous film, that being between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. And so that means, in my opinion, they had more time to work on the story and get things right, and it is actually forging a new continuity rather than playing off directly after what happened before with the previous film and basically backtracking everything that the previous film had said, as was the case with Rise of Skywalker. This film, I believe, this film seems to ignore the sequel, the 2016 Ghostbusters, as well as Ghostbusters 2, it would seem, and it really seems to be a sequel directly off the original 1984 Ghostbusters, and that seems to be what they're going for here. And as far as this movie goes, the story is actually, it's actually a lot of fun, and there's a lot of heart going on here. Now, we'll get into that in the spoiler talk later as to why I think it works as well as it does, at least in my opinion. But as far as the story goes, I think, focusing on the kids, the grandkids of Spengler at this point, I think that works out really good. I like the fact that it's focusing also on a small town in rural Oklahoma rather than in New York City. It's doing a lot of the same things as the original Ghostbusters, but it's also changing enough up where it feels fresh. And also, what they do with some of the characters going forward, in my opinion, they deal with these things with the characters in a very respectful manner and in a way that's not pandering, in my opinion. Really, the standout of this cast is McKenna Grace as Phoebe Spengler, and at first I was kind of she's portrayed as she's weird. She's very much the gene skipped a generation in between Spengler's child to his grandchild, and now she's very much a young female Spengler at this point, and she's the nerd. She doesn't. Her emotions are kind of tamped down, and she doesn't react to things the way you think they would. And you would think that might inhibit her character going through this. However, the way they progress things as they go, it feels natural to me, and it feels like it's a very they deal with it in a very fun way, and how she interacts with other characters, especially her friendship with one of the local kids in this town that they're at, and also really like the special effects. Again, compared to the 2016 Ghostbusters, these ones they look a whole lot better than that other film, and as well as there was also a surprise instance of practical effects as well, and I really appreciate that. I love that they're doing that callback and doing practical effects where they can. And it looks great, in my opinion. They're not cheaping out on the visual department. However, there was one effect at the very end that I think goes a little too long. Again, no spoilers yet. I'll do that in my I'll announce when I start getting into spoilers. But for right now, my main sum up of this film is I get why some people might not like this film, and they'll feel turned off by it, and I understand that. I really do. But for me, going into this with a lot of skepticism into this and feeling really nervous about how they were going to go about this, because I've seen other, franchise reboots come about and they just crash and burn. Recent example of that, I think, would be The Predator from 2018. However, in this one, I think that they dealt with it really well, and I think that this is going to be a fun time for a family, and definitely worth checking out. So if I was going to give Ghostbusters Afterlife a letter grade, I would say this is a solid A. Not an A+, just because there are some things that definitely detract near the very in the second half and near the end. However, for what it is, I'd say this is a great time. Definitely go check it out in a theater if you can. So those are my main spoiler-free thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now let's get into some spoiler talk as certain plot developments and character arcs that may seem familiar to you and where you may have seen them before. Now, as far as why I think this film works as well as it does with focusing on the kids going through it, because that can easily backfire in a lot of these sorts of franchises. In my opinion, this movie owes a lot of its success, at least in my mind, to Stranger Things, because I feel like that kind of primed the pump, as it were, to kids, a band of kids in a horror movie, in a horror setting with scary things happening, banding together to fight off a demonic threat or something. I feel like that really primed the pump for that. If Stranger Things hadn't happened, this could easily be very cheesy and easily not work. However, because I like Stranger Things so much, I feel like that really prepared me for what was going to happen in this film as far as what the characters go. So there's a lot of that. As well as, I think there's a surprising connection to a more recent series that I might do a brief mini review of once the first season ends. But the new series Star Trek Prodigy, which is a Nickelodeon show on Paramount Plus, also focuses on a group of kids discovering a Starfleet vessel, and then they're having to use this technology and figure out what it is and work together in order to combat various threats. And very similar to how these kids discover all of Egon's Ghostbusters tech, and they're having to figure it out and use it to combat these ghosts. So there's that kind of comparison to be made there. Now, as far as, you know, other spoiler thoughts go, the way they handled the original Ghostbusters showing up, you know, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and Ernie Hudson, them showing up was pretty good. I was when they showed up, I was like, yes, but I was like, oh, please don't steal the show away from them, from the kids, because they're doing such a good job as it is. But as far as I know, like, they actually their cameo was brief enough that I think that they managed to work it into story organically, and it worked out as well as could be. Especially, you know, in the introduction of the CGI Spengler, you know, using the likeness of the late great Harold Ramis. I knew it was coming, and I think it was dealt with well, and I think that as far as an arc goes, it worked out well. However, with the arc of Egon, the mother, Egon's daughter, feeling, you know, that she felt betrayed by him, and like, oh, I didn't man up to him. I feel like that arc would have worked a little better if we spent a little more time with her. I feel like we didn't. We just barely spent enough time with her to make it not bomb. But I feel like if they may have spent a little more time with her, developing that, spent a little more time with it, and then I think it may have worked a little bit better, in my opinion. It worked okay in this movie. I think it could have done a little bit better. But also, when I mentioned earlier that the effect of CGI Spengler, it looks good at first, but then they linger on it a little too long, in my opinion, and it starts to look silly by the end. And I don't think that and you know, when when his ghost disappears and he flies off into the stars and it goes to For Harold, it's like, it's a great moment, but the fact that they lingered on it a little too long and the effect isn't very convincing for that long, that I think kind of undercut the moment a little bit. But also, let me just say, the fact that they used the original Ghostbusters, you know, Ray Parker Jr. Ghostbusters song at the end, and not a terrible cover song version of Ghostbusters, right call. You know, that was perfect. So, those are my main thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife. What did you think of the film? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What about my analysis? Do you agree, disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. Be sure to look for my next movie review, which I believe will be for Spider-Man No Way Home, coming out in December. And either that or West Side Story, which I believe comes out December 10th. I could be wrong. I might be getting my dates mixed up. So be sure to look for those, as well as I'm doing my new reaction series to each and every episode of Season 4 of Star Trek Discovery. So you can check that out if you like. And if you liked this video or any other video on my channel, please give me a like, share, and especially subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. But just remember, there is nothing new under the sun. And yes, you have seen it before.